It was mid-December 2023, Blackbear Valley, northwest of Banff National Park in Alberta, Canada. This valley had been wiped off tourist maps long ago. The road was now used only by local loggers and occasional adventure seekers. Alex Harper, 37 years old, was a Canadian true crime writer and photographer. His recent book, Lost in the Rockies, had become a bestseller. This time, he had set out alone for research on his new book. With him was a rented Subaru Outback, heavy winter gear, a satellite phone, a drone, 2 weeks' worth of food, and an old notebook. It had been snowing heavily since morning. The road was disappearing fast. GPS signal was getting weaker. Alex thought that after another 80 kilometers, he would reach a small town. But suddenly, a large snowdrift appeared in front of his car. The vehicle slipped and got stuck in a ditch beside the road. The engine died. Even the satellite phone lost its signal. Thick spruce and pine forests surrounded him on all sides. In the freezing wind, the only sound was the occasional snap of tree branches. Alex turned on his flashlight and started walking forward. After walking about half a kilometer, he saw a large wooden lodge. It was a massive 3-story log cabin. The faded signboard read, Blackbear Valley Lodge, Esther 1968. All welcome. Curtains still hung in the windows, and a thin trail of smoke rose from the chimney. The front door was half open. As soon as Alex stepped inside, he was stunned. A big fire was burning in the lobby fireplace. The reception desk was clean. Several keys still hung on the key rack. He took the key for room 217, located on the second floor. The room was neatly prepared. The bed was made. Hot water ran in the bathroom, and there were even a few beers in the mini fridge. He assumed a local caretaker must still come by occasionally to maintain the place. The first night passed quietly. Alex wrote in his notebook, "Today started badly, but this lodge is strangely comfortable. Tomorrow morning I'll try to pull the car out." On the morning of the second day, he went outside and saw his car parked right in front of the lodge. The engine was warm, but he hadn't moved it himself. He smiled, thinking someone must have helped. Behind the lodge, in an old shed, he found some vintage ski equipment and a 1972 guest register. Opening the register, he saw many names from January 1979. Everyone had checked in on the same date. There were no checkout records after that. One name caught his attention the most. Margaret Harper, room 217, his own mother's name. He had been told she died in 1980, but he never knew the details. In the evening, the lights came on in the lodge restaurant. Tables were set. Alex saw an elderly woman come out of the kitchen wearing a 1970s-style uniform. "You must be hungry. Today's special, venison stew." Alex asked, "Who are you? Is anyone else here?" The woman smiled. "I'm Mrs. Calder, the manager of this lodge since 1968. As night deepened, the lodge came alive. Footsteps echoed in the corridors, laughter rang out, and a piano played. When Alex returned to room 217, he found an old woman's coat lying on the bed. In the pocket was a photo. His mother Margaret as a young woman, standing in front of the lodge. On the back was written, January 12th, 1979. "Waiting for my son." Alex's hands were shaking. He took out his satellite phone. This time, signal returned. He quickly sent a message to a friend. "Stuck at Blackbear Valley Lodge. Need help." But the message never showed. Delivered. On the third night, he couldn't sleep. He stepped into the corridor and saw every room door open. People were inside each room, some reading, some talking, some staring out the windows. They were all dressed in 1979 fashion. A young man approached him. "Are you Alex? Margaret has been waiting for you. She said you would come." Alex stepped back. He went down to the basement. There he found stacks of old newspapers. The headline read, Blackbear Valley Lodge Avalanche. Tragedy, 14 guests and staff buried alive. January 13, 1979, no survivors found. Yet the lodge still stood. At 3 in the morning, he heard his mother's voice. "Alex, come. I never left you. On that stormy night, I wanted to bring you here, but the car got stuck. We are all here now. It's peaceful." Alex ran outside. A blizzard was raging. His car was stuck again. Behind him, every window of the lodge was lit. Shadows stood watching him. He started running toward the road, but every time he ended up back near the lodge. It was as if the forest kept turning him around. On the morning of the fourth day, he woke up in the bed of room 217 in his notebook. Was a new entry in his own handwriting. "I understand now. I will stay here. Mom is waiting." Outside, the sound of a rescue helicopter could be heard, but they never found the lodge. Only an old foundation and some debris buried under the snow. 2 weeks later, Alex's friend checked the last location of his satellite phone. There was no lodge there, but the phone was later found in an old rescue shed. Inside was only one saved photo. Alex standing with his mother in front of the lodge fireplace, smiling. The date, January 13th, 2023. Even today, some people say that if you drive near Blackbear Valley at night, you can see lights in the distance. Smoke rises from the lodge chimney, and if anyone gets close, they hear a soft voice calling, "Come! Room 217 is waiting for you." It was late October 2018. The clock had already passed 11 at night. The old stretch of Highway 66 in the Arizona desert was completely deserted. Jacob Reed, 34 years old, was driving his old Ford pickup from Las Vegas toward Chicago. He had only a camera, a laptop, and 3 days' worth of food with him. He was a freelance photographer who made his living by capturing images of forgotten roads, abandoned places, and lost stories. "Just 200 more miles," he muttered to himself. But suddenly the engine shuddered. The temperature gauge turned red. Jacob pulled over. All around him was nothing but darkness and cold wind. There was no cell signal. A few hundred yards ahead, he could see the faint remains of a neon sign. "Sunset Motel, vacancy." The lights weren't on, but the sign was still hanging. He pushed the truck up to the motel. The main office door was half open. Inside, there was dust, an old register, and broken chairs. Behind the counter was a key rack. Jacob picked up a key, room 12. The room was surprisingly clean. The bed sheets were old but free of dust. Water was still running in the bathroom. Jacob thought maybe some local person came by occasionally to clean the place. He dropped his bag and went outside to take a few photos. In the moonlight, the long corridor of the motel gave him chills. He woke up around 2 a.m. There was a sound coming from somewhere, not TV static, but voices. Jacob got up and looked outside. A light was on in room 9. He quietly walked over. Through the gap in the door, he saw an elderly man sitting at the table going through some papers. He was wearing a 1970s style shirt. Jacob knocked. The man opened the door. His eyes were tired but alert. "Who are you?" "Nobody comes here." "Jacob, my car broke down. Do you live here?" The man smiled. "Edward McKinley. I used to own this motel until 1987. They talked all night. Edward told him the motel was built in 1959, during the golden age of Route 66. After the interstate highway opened, business dropped. But the real trouble started in 1978. 5 people disappeared here that year, Edward said quietly. The police said it was drug dealers, but I knew better. The next morning, Jacob walked around the motel. In the old garage behind the building, there was an abandoned Chevy Impala. When he opened the trunk, he found dried bloodstains inside. He took photos. Then in the office, he checked the old register. One name kept appearing in June 1978, Sarah Klein, room 9. In the evening, Edward was nowhere to be found. Jacob went to room 9 and discovered an old diary on the table. The handwriting belonged to Edward, but the dates were from 2018. The diary read, "Another one has come today. Jacob, he's taking pictures. I can't do this anymore. Sarah is still here. I didn't kill her, but I couldn't save her either." Jacob felt a chill run down his spine. He tried to call the police, but there was still no signal. Suddenly, he heard a car outside. An old police cruiser pulled up. 2 officers stepped out. Their uniforms looked like they were from the 1980s. "Mr. Reed, we heard about your car." Jacob was stunned. He had never told anyone his name. One of the officers smiled. "Edward told us. Come on, we'll take you to town." Jacob noticed something strange. The officers' shoes had no dust on them. The motel ground was reddish, but their shoes were shiny black. He stepped back. "I'm fine, thanks." As the night deepened, lights turned on in every room of the motel. Shadows appeared in every window. Jacob locked himself in his room. There was a knock at the door. "Jacob, open up!" "It's Edward. I need to show you something." Jacob didn't open the door. He looked through the window. Edward was standing there, but there was a deep wound across his throat. No blood was flowing, just a dark mark. Morning came. Jacob stepped outside and saw that his truck had been repaired. The engine was running, but the motel sign was gone. Only an empty post remained. He drove away. In the next town, the first thing he did was search Google. Sunset Motel Route 66 disappearance. The results appeared. In 1978, 5 people had vanished. Among them was Sarah Klein. The motel owner, Edward McKinley, had committed suicide in 1987 by slitting his own throat. The motel had been abandoned ever since. But the strangest part was this. In 2015, a photographer had stayed at this motel overnight and taken pictures. His name was Michael Reed, Jacob's father. He never returned. His laptop was later found 30 miles away. Inside was only one photo. A young man who looked exactly like Jacob, standing at the door of room 12. Jacob opened his laptop. He looked at the photos he had taken the previous night. In every single one, he was not alone. Edward was standing behind him. And in the window of room 9 was a woman, Sarah Klein. There was no fear in her eyes, only waiting. Jacob turned the truck around and drove back to that spot on Highway 66. The motel was no longer there. Only a burnt foundation remained, but once again, his truck's engine died. Night fell. In the distance, the neon sign flickered back to life. Sunset Motel vacancy.